Aries, the go-getters, the pioneers of the zodiac sign, the first of the 12 zodiac signs. Aries is represented by the ram in Greek mythology, by the chrysomolaos, which is this Greek mythical creature. The ram, the head on first. They don't care about the consequences. They're just going towards whatever they want to go towards. Cardinal fire. So they initiate and create their own flame. That's what makes Aries pioneers and not see what's behind. So they can become destructive. That's why they have to learn from their polar opposite, which is Libra. Libra is cardinal air, which is initiating and creating its own form of communicating. It's communicating with someone else to create a partnership and come to a known conclusion, whereas Aries are the creators. They have the idea and they go towards it. They don't care about anyone else's opinion. They don't need to go and seek for relationships to understand what they want to go towards. That's what makes Aries inventors, original, very creative in their form of self-expression, because they deal with the flame. They need to fuel that fire. They need to dim a little bit that light before it becomes destructive and forms this wildfire. In the traditional rising wheel, we have the first all the way to the 12th house, from Aries to Pisces. These are the life situations. The zodiac stem from the houses. So wherever you have Aries at, which is the archetypal structure, which what do we talk about? It's pioneering. It's the cardinal fire. Your I am, your rising sign, starts with Aries because it's your form of self. That's why Aries and Pisces is the beginning and the end of the cycle, self-expression. So they go hand in hand in a 360 wheel. That's why each life situation is important to understand the cycle. Me explaining this series right now of all of the archetypes is for you to play with these energies and understand your own chart. Looking at this, first the archetypes, then the sun, then the moon, then Venus, then Mercury. It's looking at everything separated and then applying it together based on your own unique chart. We all have this chart with different elements, with different aspects, with different modalities. For instance, if I have my Aries falling in my third house, then my rising sign will start in Aquarius. So depending on your rising start, that's going to determine where your Aries archetypal structure, your cardinal fire, is going to play out. And depending on the planet you have in your third house, depending on the aspect is making with another planet, potentially that's going to give you a different energetical factor of the Aries in your own chart. This is how important and unique astrology is. So wherever you have Aries in your own chart, that's going to give you a better sense of your form of pioneering. So for instance, if I have my Aries in my third house, your first house is your house of self. Second, values. Third, communication, community. So if I have Aries there, then that means around the archetypal structure of the third house, I'm going to have the lens of Aries, which is pioneering, cardinal fire. So either I'm going to initiate forms of communicating around my surroundings, or other people are going to be initiating. They're going to be presenting the Aries archetypal structure. Depending on what life situations you have Aries at, that's going to give you the energy. And depending what planet, if you have any planet potentially in Aries, that's going to give you a better understanding of where you're placing your influence. So for instance, if you have Venus in Aries, pioneering and self-expressing your form of love, passion, you have a way of using your cardinal fire towards your values because you have Venus in Aries. So depending what planet you have Aries at, it's going to play out a whole different lens for you. Having my moon in Aries, let's say in the third house, that means that my moon, the archetype of my moon, which are my reactions, my internal world, my cycles within, that's going to be placed in the Aries constellation, which is cardinal fire, head on first. So my moon, whenever I have an emotional outburst and I need to go within, then I need to go to my third house and communicate, be cardinal with my form of fire. Or that's going to be the life situation. I cannot control my life situations. But if I have a planet there, then that means I'm placing the influence. So my moon, my reactions, is going to be in my third house with the archetype of Aries. So my form of communication, my early communication, my surroundings, and everything around me that stems from the third house is going to have the lens of Aries with my moon there. So my reactions, the way I cycle is going to be there. So I feel comfortable going to my first form of Aries, self-expression. It's really about playing with your own unique planets. So wherever you have Aries at, that's going to give you a better understanding of your pioneering energy. If I have my third house in Aries, that means that I'm going to be pioneering my form of mutable communication. Gemini archetype, but it's the life situations and then the constellations. So I'm giving you an example of the Gemini to understand the third house. So this is how we tie it all together. When we look at the anatomy of the brain, the two ventricles represent the Aries archetypal structure, because those are how we associate, how we think, how we instinctually begin a motor function in the brain. That's Aries archetypal structure. The cardinal fire, the raw instinct. Aries are the initiators and creators of instinctual Mars pull, because Aries is ruled by Mars. So they deal with the instinct, but they're the outer part of Mars, which is acting based on their willpower, based on the raw instinct that they receive unconsciously and consciously, because they're cardinal with their fire. They're not applying their semantics. It's the sense of the self, the I am, and they need to express that because they need to protect and express themselves. They're the flame. They heat up whatever they touch if they're unaware that they're doing this, that they're being reactive. That's the polarity of Aries. Aries, opposition, is the seventh house, Libra. Libra is ruled by Venus. Venus is the planet of love, appreciation, value. If you're unaware of your own internal value system, you're basing your value based on external things. Whatever house you have in your first house is going to determine the life situation where you ascend, your rising sign. It doesn't matter what archetype you have there, what zodiac sign, it's still going to play out the archetype lens of Aries, the first sense of self, how you head onto your life, how you ascend through your life situations. And if you have a lot of planets in the first house, you're putting in a lot of influence in that life situation of the self. For instance, let's say you have your Mercury in the first house, then your sense of self is going to be correlated with the archetypal structure, the planet, the energy of Mercury, meaning that's a lens, a perception, an influence, a force that you're putting into that life experience of the self. Then the seventh house, which is the polar opposite of that node, is how you relate your sense of self. So how do you relate your flame, how you see things based on your own unique perception, and how you ascend from the first house all the way through the 12th house. Wherever you have Aries in your chart is going to determine the life situation where you initiate and create, or you're placed upon with experiences where you have to initiate and create new ways of showing your fire, showing your sense of self, but in a Mars way, because Aries is ruled by Mars. So that's the energy you're carrying out with the archaic structure of Aries. So wherever you have Mars in your chart is going to give you an understanding of your will, your inner flame, your inner spark, your Aries, your sense of self, how you act, how you use your creativity. Because Aries is correlated with the prefrontal cortex, your ascendant, your sense of self, and how other people see you, your personality. So for instance, if you have Aries in your 8th house, then that means that where you see things is in the house of desires, deep occult things, mysticism. So you put a lot of your passion, your will, your instinctual raw action is put in the 8th house. That's the life situation of transformation. Aries there sparks a flame. So it shows, it initiates. Aries fight externally, Scorpios fight internally. That is the difference between how... My camera died, so I'm charging it, but that's the difference. Mars is ruling Aries in the external, meaning that Aries, they fuel their will externally, while Scorpios fuels that will internally, and they analyze their emotions, they fixate on that eyes, so they can analyze and become intellectually detectives of their mind, and that's what makes them mysterious. Aries is the instinct, the self, the first house, the spring, the offspring. It's how you ascend, how other people see you, how you see yourself. It's your flame. Just a brief explanation of the archetypal structure. So yeah, go see where you have Aries at, and that's going to give you a better understanding of where you have that flame within.